hello, I went to see the guy speak once who wrote that music, and he started his presentation like that, black screen and music, and he came on. I just thought, that's really brilliant. I'm going to do every presentation like that from now on. So we just do them all like that. It's not really appropriate, but you know. Thanks to Herb for introducing me. What he didn't tell you, I think, is that he hates me, because at Thinking Digital he put me on after Hans Rosling, straight after him, and then now he's put me on in the kind of graveyard slot, you know, just before the end, when all you really want to do is me to be really, really quick so you can go and get a drink, you know. It's a bit like doing a best man speech and no one says, that was a really good, long best man speech. So I will try and be quick. I'll try and get done in sort of 20 minutes and tell you about what we're doing. These are my contact details and all that stuff that you normally put at the end. Put them at the front so you can write them down now, because at the end, you know, there isn't enough time, so they're up there in case you want to jot those down and stuff. And also there'll be jokes, because we are in the afternoon and we're getting to the last kind of speakers now and it's been a long day. So there's going to be some jokes. I thought I'd start today with my favourite slide, which is this one. That's the kind of quality of jokes you can expect, by the way, just to set the expectations. So we're from a thing called The Really Interesting Group, which is sort of a design consultancy, I suppose. And we do sort of what we call post-digital projects, which is a bit of a clunky term, but I'll tell you about that in a minute. And the best kind of description we've got is this guy there, Matt Jones, from a company called Berg, who's described us as a beautifully executed whimsy, which is probably good. And the one at the bottom is Matt Locke from Channel 4, who described us as doing projects for fun, money, or both, which is also good. So we kind of do things like that. And what I want to tell you about today is Newspaper Club and the thing that started from things our friends have written on the internet 2008. So this is basically a project that we did at the end of last year, start of this year. We kind of conceived it at the end of last year, handed it out at the start of this year. And it's a newspaper of 23 of our favourite blog posts from 2008 that friends of ours had written. It started with this one, which is Dan Hill's City of Sound post. It's a really brilliant piece of writing called The Street as Platform, about how I guess the internet and technology and stuff interacts with the street. And it's this whole thing about from kind of traffic lights to sat navs to unlocking your car with a remote control key and all this kind of stuff, and mobile phones, and it kind of takes you on this journey of a street and all the things that are going on. It's really brilliantly well written. It's 8,000 words long. And everyone last year, at every kind of conference you went to, everyone's kind of referencing it and talking about it. But we thought, I bet no one's actually read it. Certainly not all the way through, because it's 8,000 words, which is a lot of stuff to read on a screen. And that kind of sparked us off. If we could put that in a format that would be easy to read, that would be a good thing. So we decided to put it in a newspaper. And originally, our kind of guide was, we'll use the street as platform, that'll be a double-page spread, and then we give us an idea of how many other articles we can put in. It's actually 2 double-page spreads. So 8,000 was kind of proof that no one read it online, really, because 8,000 words is like 2 double-page spreads of a newspaper. So we put that into a newspaper. We found 23 other things. It's up here. Maybe you can come and have a look at the end if you want. It was printed. This one was actually printed by the same people that print News of the World, so it's the same kind of size and print spec as that. It's a proper bona fide newspaper. That's what it looks like inside. I wanted it to be, from a design point of view, I wanted it to be a newspaper, but not aping a newspaper. So I didn't want it to have a headline like The Sun or have a crossword or weather section, you know. But I wanted it to pick up on some of the way you read a newspaper, and you know, it's kind of easy to read. To make it a bit more fun, there's some tweets and stuff like that at the top, which are kind of irrelevant and taken out of context, but they kind of replace the sort of running head thing that you get in newspapers. The big, probably show this slide, the big spread in the middle really lends itself to a kind of, you know, poster thing. So we did a massive shot of, a friend of ours went to NASA last year, so we took that picture there. It just looks great in the middle. Kind of newsprint allows you to do that kind of thing, which is good. And then this is the printer. So when we were doing this project, and we just printed 1,000, we rang up the printers and we got it printed, and they said, would you like to come and see it being printed? So we said, yeah. So we went to see it, and basically they have this, I mean, it's like a whole warehouse of a machine that prints your newspaper, which basically looks like this. Can we have sound again? Oh, okay, right, there's no sound on that. But you can see it in a minute, you can see the size of the machine. There. So it's like a whole, the reason they do that, they make it so big, is because they print the newspapers so quickly, they can't stack them up quick enough, so they have to slow them down by sending them all the way around the warehouse, basically. But anyway, there's this massive warehouse of machine that prints your newspaper, which is just awesome. So we sent that out to, first of all, the authors. We sent it out to 23 authors. I was a bit paranoid because we'd stolen all the content and did it without asking anyone. Just, although they were all kind of friends of ours, we didn't actually bother asking anyone. So we gave it to them first, but thankfully everyone really liked it. Then we sent it to about another 100 people who were kind of friends that we thought would like it, and then we just left it, and then people started blogging about it and writing about it. And it went onto the internet, and people started writing and asking us for them. And in 2 days, all 1,000 had gone. So, which is pretty amazing, really. And people started obviously taking pictures and putting it on Flickr and blogging about it, which is really nice. And what we found out was something that you can't really do digitally, that you can do analogically, if that's a word, is we numbered them. So we numbered them all out of 1,000. We did this by hand. And then just because we thought it was quite cute, really, and we sent them out. But because they were numbered, people were picking up on that. Someone started a Flickr group where they numbered them all, where people had numbered them and uploaded them, and then they geotagged them. They're trying to find them because they went all around the world, from kind of North America to South America to New Zealand, Thailand, all over the place. Mainly kind of Europe and North America, but they went to further places as well. So there's a Flickr group where they've got, I can't remember how much they've got a couple of hundred, but I doubt if they'll get all of them. But people are trying to tag them and locate them and get them all, which was quite interesting. And then obviously has the benefit that if we show the same video again and we put so we put music for airports on it turns it into an interaction design project, because people can tag it and locate it, which is, a different thing, which is kind of a cheap way of leading me into talking about post-digital, because we kind of realised there's some of the best bits of the web there, and there's some of the best bits of, the analog world that we're kind of matching together. Lots of people said that more than just Dan's post in there was lots of stuff in there they'd heard about in the year but they hadn't had a chance to read. And actually the newspaper was brilliant for just taking it home and reading it on the train. It's kind of better than a screen for that one particular thing. And when we thought about the big machine that I showed you earlier, we just kind of realised that there are magnificent bits of infrastructure kind of just lying around. And if you're like the newspaper industry, they're not busy all the time. They're not running those presses 24 hours a day, obviously, because the business is slowly in decline. This is a thing called the micro printer, which Tom Taylor, who also works with us, has made. And it's kind of another example of, I guess, the internet going to the real thing. So in this whole kind of post-digital world, there's kind of three things really that I guess I want to highlight. Is that we now live in this world where real objects have digital identities, and this kind of leads to all sorts of things, which is a bit like tagging the newspapers and putting them on Flickr and geolocating them and all that kind of stuff. When we were at Thinking Digital earlier in the year with Herb, they have these lampposts, and if they're not working, you can ring this number and you can kind of tell them what street post it is, and they'll come out and fix it and all that kind of stuff. And we're not that far away from being able to text that and it come back on, all those kind of things. Herb's already mentioned Baker Tweet earlier in the day, and there's Tower Bridge, and in fact there's, in London at the moment there's a rivalry between all the bridges are tweeting now, and they're all competing with each other to be who can be the best bridge Twitterer, which is a bit crazy, but there is these real objects having digital identities. Secondly, there's digital stuff being expressed in physical things. So again, Herb's spoke about Bublino, which probably most of you have seen, but if you haven't, this is this wonderful machine which when you tweet a particular keyword, it just fires out bubbles, which is just amazing. And it's also, it's not a real product, it's not kind of a business model, it's not going to sell millions of them, but it's just experimenting with that mix of digital and analog. And I think the main kind of thing about that is that's better than anything you can do in Flash. You can't do some kind of JavaScript that's better than bubbles going off, when I've tweeted a particular word. And I think maybe we're getting to this point where people are bored with screens now. They're not impressed by screens anymore. We've seen everything you can ever do on screen. It's not that impressive. And if we're not careful, yes, we'll have this, brilliantly digital connected world, but it'll just be a world full of glowing rectangles, which is kind of not what we want either. We want this mix of things and kind of digital. I want to show you this film, which was only released yesterday by some friends of ours called Berg, who are a design consultancy in London. It's called, what's it called? Nearness, or something like that. It's called. Anyway, this is basically a whole load of experiments they've done. It's the same as the Honda Cog ad and the, I can never pronounce it properly, the Fleischi and Weiss guys. But it's all done with RFID tags. So it starts off with the Oyster card, and all the things trigger another action, but none of the things ever touch. So they all nearly touch, but they never actually touch. So it's slightly moved on from the, Honda Cog sort of the typical chain you're using to see, because it's using different bits of technology and RFID and all stuff like that. It's gorgeously shot as well. But that's just another example, I think, of digital and the physical starting to come together. Which I think, if we wanted to kind of have a neat phrase for linking all that together, we would call that, or we like to call that, moving past digital infatuation and also past analog nostalgia. So there was a period very recently of this infatuation with digital. It has to be digital. Everything should be digital. Which is obviously not true, but lots of people said that all the time. And at the same time, I think particularly with designers, there's this analog nostalgia. It'd be brilliant if it was screen printed. It'd be brilliant if it was a physical thing. And sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it's better if it's digital. And what we need to do is get past the two of those and find out the best way, the best of both those worlds. This is a thing by Emmett Connolly, who's one of the engineers at Google, who did Based after our newspaper. And he took a whole load of stuff that he'd stored on Instapaper, which is a bit like Delicious or something like that, where you kind of tag stuff. All this stuff he'd taken on Instapaper, and he put it into a book, which you can do by Blur or Lulu or stuff like that, just because he said, I'm never going to get around to reading this stuff on screen that I've stored, but if I put it into a book, then I can carry it around with me and I can read it. There was also a thing in London last year called Paper Camp, which was basically a load of people getting together and experimenting with paper in the same way you might experiment with Arduinos, or you might go to Hack Day, or you might do stuff like that, doing that with paper. And paper is quite an extraordinary technology, and it's just fascinating the stuff we can do with that. Another example that I just saw the other day is, why not print your own timetable from Southwestern trains? And this kind of thing's been around for a long time. I'm not saying anything new here, but I think the difference here is you can get train timetables on your phone and you can get them on your laptop and stuff, but if you just went from Tunbridge Wells to London Bridge every day, you only want those times, you don't want all the other times. So the ability to use digital to draw out that one aspect of the timetable and then print it on a bit of A4, because that's easier to look at when you're rushing to get the train than your phone or your laptop, is a bit of a leap, I think, into this kind of post-digital world. So your business. We want your machines. It's kind of a really common thing for someone to stand up here and say the internet has broken everyone's business models and the world's fucked and all that kind of stuff. And yes, that's good, but it's like now we're sort of saying we're coming after your machines now. So maybe with the newspapers, it's not. The newspaper's nothing wrong with the newspaper, or those wonderful machines, there's nothing wrong with those, but maybe there's something wrong with the business model, and the internet has probably proved that the business model's wrong, and that argument's won, but now we're coming after your machines, and what can we do with these kind of bits of infrastructure that are lying around? So the guys at 4IP really like this, and one of the reasons we did it was we did have an idea that it could be a product of the future, as we like to call it. So when there was lots of talk years ago about the Daily Me, and that seems to have died away, and that's not a thing that's going to work, but maybe there is a way of collecting stuff over a year or over a couple of months, or for clubs or societies to collect stuff and print it out as newspapers. So 4IP, as you probably know, is kind of Channel 4's innovation sort of investment fund. They're actually always actively looking, a bit of promo now for 4IP, they're always actively looking for a proposal. So if you go, I think it's 4ip.org, .uk, but Google it and you'll find it. They're always looking for stuff, and I think they're quite happy to meet people. And I think at the moment they're doing a tour of the UK actually, so it's worth kind of speaking to them about what kind of funding they've got and what projects they would like to fund. But we put together, went through the round of funding, and they funded a thing which we call a newspaper club. The website's newspaperclub.co.uk, but the blog is probably more interesting at the moment because we haven't launched, as Herb said, and we'll launch in sort of January next year. The idea behind Newspaper Club is to enable small groups to larger groups of people, communities, to be able to make their own newspaper from their own content and from online content. So if you are a birdwatching club in Derby, you can, at the end of the year, gather your stuff and make it into a newspaper. Or if your local newspaper goes bust, but there are still people blogging about your community locally, you can get together and once a week or once a month do your newspaper. Or you could just do a couple to showcase your illustration work or your photography work, or for a conference you could produce, a few thousand or something like that. the more we kind of do it, actually, there's more and more kind of opportunities for just stuff on newsprint that you can get via the web and put it onto newsprint. So we're building an online, basically a piece of online software at the moment which is what newspaperclub.co.uk will be. You'll be able to go on there, input your stuff, and make a newspaper. Basically, we're also kind of doing some corporate ones. I just wanted to show you these because it goes back to my kind of graphic design point about them not looking like pastiches of newspapers. So this is a collection of research and stuff that the BBC had done, basically, and they just wanted to put it out in a format that wasn't the standard report and that people would kind of read. So we did that in a newspaper. This is a book club boutique, which is like kind of a book club in London. They went to a festival, and they gathered a load of writers and put together their own unique kind of newspaper and handed it out at the festival. That was for Penguin Books. It's the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, that new one that's been written by Owen Koffler. The new one. The part of the marketing strategy was to pre-release half the book to bloggers and reviewers and stuff. So they printed half of the book in a newspaper format, and then we did a limited edition of 42, and then we sent that out to authors and reviewers and people like that. So there's just loads of really interesting things you can do with newsprint. And then the really, really big kind of exciting news and certainly the breakthrough in the last couple of months is this one, which is some stuff that I wanted to read over the summer holidays, some stuff that I hadn't read from the year, which I basically packaged up with the software, put it into a newspaper, and then made 5 and took them on holiday because we found someone who will print 5 newspapers for us. So before, with those great big machines that you see, you could print sort of about 500, but they're geared up to print millions, obviously. But there's now some digital printers who will do you on proper newsprint, will do you as little as 5 copies. So it means that's very inexpensive. Again, that one's up here. It's just a small 8-page newspaper of stuff that I wanted to read, just articles and stuff. So printed that out, took that on holiday, and it's actually really robust. There is by the pool, it gets wet, but it dries pretty quickly as well, and stuff like that. So that's quite interesting that we can go down as low as 5 because that changes the business model and means we can offer more things to more people. And because I've been listening to all the talks earlier, and there's lots of talk about the Beatles and making money and stuff, we could do I've been listening all day to all the talks and taking on what people have said. So that's what Newspaper Club's going to be, and that's kind of it for me, really. There's just a couple of slides to. I've done that in just about 20 minutes, which is perfect. So you can all go and get your drink soon. Berglund are the people that made that nearness video. That MCQ.N. That's Adrian McEwen, who makes the Bublino thing. So please have a look at that and check that out because that's really cool. There's the 4IP address, so I'd urge you also to have a look at that. There's my details again, just in case you wish to contact me and you missed them earlier. That's we sort of don't have business cards because they feel a bit outdated, so just kind of tend to use that these days, and people can jot the details down. So that's there, and that's it. Thank you very much.